Yeah. Hi, everyone. Mr. Lopez, I'm also a first-year counselor at Branham High, 7th in school counseling, and I work with students whose last names are from FI through LE. I'll pass it over to Mr. Lieburn.
Good evening. I'm Vince Lieburn. I've been here at Branham for a while, and I am the counselor for the last names RO through or RI through Z. Miss Morella.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Miss Morella. I have students with the last names LI to RH. This is my 8th year at Branham, and I believe now about my 12th year in counseling. Thank you all for coming for tonight. And I'm going to pass it over to Miss Vongsa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Vongsa. I am the 504 intervention counselor. This is my first year at Branham High School, but I've been a counselor since 2003.
And we also have Ms. Shumat. She is not available tonight, but she is our college and career specialist. And this is her first year, so she's able to help students with kind of the college application process and getting a little bit more into what they want to do after high school. So next we have the rest of our admin team. So we have Lindsay Schubert, who's our principal, Nikita Shaw, our assistant principal for students A through G, Tori Waite, our assistant principal for students H through N, and Todd Harrison, our assistant principal O through Z. We also have Landon Jacobs, he's our athletic director, and we have Christina Carreras, our activities director. So just an overview, as many of you know, we're in the 7th week, but this is our bell schedule. So we have 2 rotating days. We have A days and we have B days. So A days are periods 1, 2, 3, and 7. And then our B days are periods 4, 5, and 6. On our B days, we have either tutorial or outreach. Tutorial is B days that land on Monday through Thursday, and students have the choice of where they would like to go, what teacher they would like to see, what class they need extra support in. And then B days that land on a Friday, those are outreach days. So they are assigned to a specific teacher and a specific classroom. So it basically is every other Friday, they go to a specific teacher where they build community within that classroom and cover different topics. Next, we'll go on to section 2.
And there's a lot of information as we go through tonight. And so please rest assured, like we said, this is being recorded. So feel free to go back and check out any section that maybe you need a review on, or let us know via email if there's any questions. Transition to high school, 9th grade matters. And we cannot emphasize that enough. It really does. This is the last sort of stepping stone for students as they go on to post-secondary education, the workforce, vocational training programs, whatever that might be for each individual student. Each class that the student takes is worth credit. And so there will be another slide. I believe Ms. Morella is covering that slide in a little bit. That explains that a little bit more in detail. But each class that the student's taking throughout the whole year is worth 10 credits each. So, and traditionally students are scheduled in about 60 credits per school year so they can meet graduation requirements. Essentially every class matters also because they prepare the student for the next level. So 10th grade will depend on the things that students did in 9th grade and so forth. The vast majority of our classes are A through G approved, meaning that they count for a 4-year entrance requirements for your schools. One big caveat that we always tell students is anything above a D will earn a student credit for their high school diploma. But in order for students to be on track for applying to a 4-year school or university, those grades need to be C or higher. If the student earns a D in any class, in any A through G class for college entrance requirements, those classes must be retaken at some point, probably through summer school or some sort of online independent study course. And those courses through credit recovery are limited, they are expensive, and they are time consuming. So we really want to emphasize that to avoid doing the extra work, we got to pass every single class, every single semester. And then ninth grade is a big transition from middle school going into high school. This first bullet point, self-advocacy, is something that, I think everyone, students and adults, that we work through self-advocacy. It's how to ask questions, how to maintain an open line of communication with teachers, and at Branham, how to use tutorial effectively. Tutorial, as Ms. Bloom mentioned, is built into the schedule. And so students generally have 80 minutes built into their school week to seek that extra support for the classes that they might be struggling in. So using that time effectively. Selecting classes that fit their interests and their talents as part of our job as school counselors is we are going to be meeting with students individually to work on their schedules every single year. And so when they eventually, usually like junior and senior year, so they have a little bit more flexibility with their schedule, with electives, with SVCTE courses, choosing those classes that kind of pique their interest so that they see, is it something that I actually do like, or is it something that I don't really like? Taking advantage to get help from teachers, school counselors, administrators. I would go as far as to include the athletic director and everyone that works at the school, to start making those connections and asking questions of how it is that people got into their current jobs. My favorite would be implementing time management skills. Something that we really try to work with students is class time is a certain amount of time, and then being able to negotiate within themselves what they do outside of the classroom time, homework, sports, clubs, social time, hanging out with friends and family, but like having those management skills to be able to do everything that comes with high school. Along with that, implementing study skills. My favorite, getting teenagers to get enough sleep, so they're ready every single day, so they can do well at school. And then checking Canvas email account daily. It is such a good practice for students to check their Canvas account. It's probably going to be the thing that has the most updated work, homework, assignments, grades, and then maintaining that, again, that open line of communication with teachers through email or in person as well. Tutorial, what could it be used for? A number of things. Making up exams if a student was out, arranging with the teacher ahead of time so that they can take an assessment that they may have missed, asking for clarification on a particular assignment that they might be stuck on and that wasn't clear. Working on homework if it's needed. Homework really should be like outside of school. Tutorial should not be a supplement for doing homework. I don't know that 40 minutes of tutorial is enough to do that. And then also just using it for studying for tests. And then again, just asking clarification from teachers if anything was missed, so that we can use that time wisely, effectively. It should not be the time to hang out with friends. It is really meant to supplement additional time that they can be using that for studying and doing homework and assignments and exams, whatever they need. And then all these links are helpful to look at if you get a chance, just different articles on high school related stuff. I think I'll pass it to, I think it's Ms. Morella.
Correct. Yes. So I will be walking you through the coursework, basically kind of the nuts and bolts of how your students are going to remain on track for graduation. Go ahead, next slide. So these are our graduation requirements. These are going to be the same for freshmen and sophomores. So essentially, our students will need to have 220 credits to reach their diploma. And on a future slide, I'll explain how they get those credits, but essentially they need to make sure that they satisfy the different requirements by the subject and the amount of years that are needed in order to meet those graduation requirements. So essentially our students are going to be doing 3 years of history. If your students are sophomores, they're in their first history class now with world history. So they'll do 2 social sciences, which would be world and US, and then they would do government and economics. Those are the only courses that we have at Branham High School that are semesters. Everything else are going to be full-length courses, but for their history course in their senior year, they will either do government first or economics first, and then they would take the other one in the second semester. They're going to need to complete 4 years of English. So every year they're going to be in an English class. So that is going to be really important that they make sure that they pass that course, because if they get that D or if they get an F in English, they will definitely need to go to summer school or do a credit recovery. It's one of those courses that we cannot put back in their schedule because they need it every year that they're at Branham. For math, our expectation is they're going to do 3 years to reach their graduation requirements. Our expectation with our students at Branham is that they're essentially going to take 4 years of math. We want to make sure that when our students leave Branham, that they are prepared for whichever pathway that they're going to go towards. So whether that's just keeping up their math skills, taking a senior math course in their senior year, or taking an advanced level math course, those would be discussions that we'd have with your students in those one-on-one meetings. But it's really important that students try to take 4 years of math. Science is going to be 3 years. It is very specific with our graduation requirements. They have to take a year of biology, a year of chemistry, and a year of physics. They are more than welcome to take other science courses after that, but they do have to take those 3. The other additional science courses, if your students wanted to do that, would just count as electives. We do have a language other than English requirement, or what we call LOTE. It's 2 years to reach their diploma. They do need to take it in the same language. So if your students start with Spanish, they need to continue with Spanish for 2 years. If they take French, then they need to continue with that for 2 years. They cannot do a year of Spanish and a year of French to meet this requirement. Your students will take 1 year of a visual and performing art course. Many of if they're sophomores, probably took that course as a freshman, or if they are currently a freshman, they're probably in a visual and performing art course. Otherwise, they would be taking a career technical education course. So usually they are in some sort of an elective that's going to meet one of those requirements. All students will take 1 year of a college prep elective. That's going to more typically be taken in their senior year. So as we kind of go through these grade level presentations, we'll explain further what that is, but essentially they'll complete that in their senior year. All students need to do 2 years of PE. They will take it freshman year and they will take it sophomore year. We recommend that they take it the 2 years and then be done. Otherwise, they would have to take it then their junior or senior year. And then the last one is that they will do 2 years of just general electives. And again, that's courses that will count in their senior year. So these are what you kind of heard the phrase of A through G requirements, or what we call college entrance requirements. This is what our 4-year colleges and universities are going to use to determine, did your students meet the requirements that they needed by subjects with the grades. So with all of these courses, students must receive a C or better. If they get a D in one of these courses and they are trying to go off to a 4-year college after high school, they will need to retake it. And so we can have those conversations with your students if that's something that they may have already had happen, or if it may happen in the future. Our graduation requirements are very similar to what the colleges are asking for. So as long as your students really take the courses that we require at Branham, they're going to meet these A through G requirements. So really their responsibility is to just kind of get those C's or better. History is only going to be 2 years. Our students will do 3 at Branham. English is going to be 4, so that's identical. Mathematics is 3. They recommend 4 years, and some schools are starting to look at that. They want to see that 4th year of a quantitative mathematics course, especially even our CSU system, so our state system here in California. So again, that's why we say it's really important that they take math every year that they're at Branham. The laboratory sciences are going to be 2. We require 3, and they actually recommend 3 years of science. So your students will meet that by having that recommended amount by taking the 3 years with us. The language other than English is 2 years. And again, theirs is that same disclaimer that it has to be the same language. They would like to see 3 years. So what we suggest to your students is when they're in Spanish 2 or French 2 or Mandarin 2, to have a conversation with their teachers in the spring and see, is Spanish 3 or French 3 or Mandarin 3, is that a good option for them to go into? If it is, we definitely recommend that they take it so that that can add to their applications. They'll only need to do 1 year of an art, and then they will do 1 year of a college preparatory elective. The one piece that we remind students of is that that college preparatory elective can be so many different classes. It can be the extra year of their language. It can be their extra year of math. It could be some of our senior classes that we have, AVID, different courses. And so your students can come and ask us what courses might fit that requirement. So just so you know, the minimum requirement for the GPA for our CSUs has moved to a 2.5 because they are not doing the SAT or ACT. However, if your students had a GPA of 2.0 to 2.49, they can still apply, and then the CSUs are going to ask them for additional or supplemental materials to add to their applications. So they can still apply if they are below that 2.5, but without the scores, that's what they're setting that new bar at. And then for our UC system, it's going to be a 3.0. The one piece to just remind your students on is that the GPA that our CSU and UC systems will use is their GPA from 10th and 11th grade. So it doesn't mean that 9th grade doesn't matter, because it absolutely does, just like Mr. Lopez said, because they will look at what grades they received, what courses they took in 9th grade. Their GPA just isn't used. So the credit breakdown. So how I said that they needed 220 credits. So basically every class that your students take is worth 5 credits. And that's within 1 semester. So within the year, every course would be worth 10 credits. So for the majority of our students on our campus that take 6 classes, at the end of their freshman year, they should be at 30 credits. And then at the end of their, at the first semester of their freshman year, they would be at 30 credits. And then at the end of their first year, then they would be at 60 credits. If you are sophomores, you should hopefully be having your 60 credits already on your transcript. And then at the end of your 10th grade, you should be at 120. So as long as you're receiving the 60 credits every year, you're passing your classes, then you will be on track to graduate. So the 4-year plan, this is something that we will do with all of our students. We actually at Branham will meet with every single student at least once a year. They will have a designated time where they would sit down with their assigned counselor. So for our 9th and 10th grade students, that meeting is going to more be, I would say, when we come back from the holiday break. So at the beginning of or middle of January. Sophomores would probably be starting to be met with, and then at usually about the beginning or middle of February, our freshman students would start to be met with, and that's going to be their individual meeting where we're going to go over their grades, their credit status, and then essentially planning for their courses for the following year. So we do a 4-year plan with our students. If they had Mr. Lieberman as a counselor last year who took over all of our 9th grade students last year, this was all done with them in that individual meeting he held with them last year. So for our current freshman students, we will be doing this when we have that meeting in the spring. And so essentially we'll map out what your students can take every year while they're at Branham to make sure that they're going to meet the graduation requirements, but also meet the college requirements if that's their goal for after high school. And then in those meetings, we do talk about some of the options that they have. I will say less of that conversation is had in 9th grade because more of the conversation we want to have with our 9th graders is getting involved. So what have they already gotten involved in? What would they like to get involved in? What's going well? What's not going well? But with our sophomores and then definitely with our juniors, we start kind of having the conversation with them on what are the options. And so then that way they can best kind of plan out for that. What you'll find at Branham is any pathway is great. So it's really individualized. It's what works for your students. So when we're having those conversations, we definitely will talk about all the different options. And then as it gets more and more defined, as we continue to meet with your students, then we're fine tuning that conversation so we can really make sure that we're giving them the information that they need for the different options that they might be looking at once they graduate. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bongsa.
Thank you. So speaking of getting involved, in their 9th and 10th grade years, this is the time for students to explore and find something that interests them, and whether that may be clubs or athletics. And I'm going to start with brewing clubs, the clubs here. So the clubs here, there are clubs to satisfy everyone's taste. There are clubs for academics, clubs for community service, and even clubs for environmental preservation. And if students, actually, if you look up there, that's the link to all the clubs. And if students look at those clubs and let's say that doesn't interest them, they can actually start a new club and start their own club. And if you look at the forms, oops, I'm sorry. Can you? So you just look at the form, just fill the starting a club 1, 2, 3 there is just super easy. They can just fill that out, and then they can just, I guess, join the club and go on the Canvas page. Thank you, Samantha. Next one. Can we go to the next? Thank you. And here are the Bruin athletics. So at our school, we offer 23 sports, and it's broken down into 3 sports seasons: fall, winter, and the spring. Fall, winter, and spring. The sports are an extension of their academics in the classroom, and these are some of the highlights of the sports here. We have 116 league championships, 10 CCS championships, and 4 CCS Scholastic team. We are going all cashless. So you want to get your tickets in advance, and that's the link for you to get your tickets for the sporting events. So here's a quote. So approach to extracurriculars. The thing that we're looking for outside the classroom is not a series of check boxes on a resume. We're looking instead for a high level of engagement or leadership in whatever it is that the student cares about most. We know that very few students can fully engage more than 1 or 2 primary activities at a high level. So I highly encourage your freshman and sophomore students to find something that interests them, whether it's sports or clubs. And we'll take it on, pass it on to Mr. Lieburn, correct?
Yep.
Thank
Hi,
you.
so I'm going to talk about online databases. So Canvas, Aries, Naviance, Parent Square, and Student Square. So we have the 4 online databases that we use: Canvas, Aries, Naviance, and Parent Square. If you are not connected to all of them, you can go to the school website and look under parent resources, and all of the databases and the links to them will be there. Parent Square, Student Square, this is a communication tool between the Branham staff and parents and students. So this is, we'll send out messages like we did for the messages today. A parent just put in the question and answer, why 4 databases? Why can't they be consolidated? Good question. We often ask the same thing. And when I go through and talk about them, we'll talk about the differences of those different databases. But our primary communication system, which allows us to deliver phone calls, emails, text messages, and those things, is going to be Parent and Student Square. And that's where you're going to get the bulletin, most important informations. You'll receive information in all of the different modalities, and you'll be able to have a chance to comment and send information back and forth to us. Canvas, we already had a parent today sent the message out that it's not the most friendly of systems to be working with. You can go with your student and look at your student's version of Canvas, but parents can have access to Canvas and can look at students' current grade situation and current attendance, and communicate with parents or with teachers that way, and with other administrative staff. My thing with Canvas, looking at the grades on a daily basis is not a good use of your time, because it's always a little bit behind, because it takes time for teachers to update it. So make sure you're going into Canvas once a week and checking your student's grade, not on a daily basis. Your student needs to check Canvas on a daily basis for their assignments, but you should be checking on Canvas, unless you're checking to make sure your student is doing better, or doing what they need to be doing. Monitoring specific assignments. So each class has their own welcome class of 2026, or in the sophomores 2025, in Canvas. And in those, there are modules that will give you information on each class and what students should be accomplishing for that year, and giving you updated information. And there will be updates from the counseling team, and specific information on different classes and different things that we are doing on campus. Grades come out, and report cards are put out on the 6-week grade, 12-week grade, but the grades that actually count towards a student's college applications are the end of each semester. So December 16th, end of the fall semester, and June 1st will be the end of the spring semester. Aries. Aries is a database that will report the 6-week, 12-week, and semester grades. It will not give grade progress reports. You need to look at Canvas for the in-between there, what the grades look like. You'll also be able to look at attendance, your students' transcripts. So sophomore parents, you can look at your students' transcripts from last year. You'll look at their graduation status. What classes have they fulfilled? What do they still need to fulfill during graduation? There's also a demographic page which shows, your address, phone numbers. There's contact information that will show emails and phone numbers. And you're going to be able to, you can go in there and update that information if anything changes. Finally, yes, it will also show you the 4-year plan. I had a parent ask, can parents see the 4-year plan? You'll be able to see the 4-year plan as well in Aries. A lot of parents have been commenting on these databases are sometimes hard to navigate and hard to use. That is correct. They sometimes are difficult, but you remember, you can always reach out to us and send us emails, and we will try to do the best we can to support you in getting access to your Aries account or your Naviance, or which we're going to go over now. Naviance is an account for students and families to be able to start planning for college, and more importantly for the sophomores and freshmen to start looking at what kind of career they would like to do. So you can do college searches, career searches. There's our career interest profilers and strength explorers, which will give you your students ideas of what their personality traits look like and what careers or majors fit into that personality traits and those interests that they have. So how do those fit in there? So there is a lot of things on colleges, on Naviance for students to do. There's a resume that students can fill out as they go through. So if your students doing volunteer time, they should go update their resume saying they did this for volunteer and that for volunteer service. So make sure your student gets on Naviance. I'm going to share with you in a minute here how you can get access to Naviance and how we're going to set that up for you. So in Naviance, one of the things they should do this year for freshmen, and I had asked all of the freshman students from last year, so this year sophomores over the summer, to do what is called the Strength Explorer. In the Naviance, you're going to see a sign that says self-discovery. Under that self-discovery, there's going to be surveys or questionnaires. One is going to be the Strength Explorer survey. Your sophomore and this year your freshman, our freshman students should fill out that Strength Explorer survey and see what kind of information it gives them for that. I know a lot of my freshman students that I asked to do it over the summer have not done it because I've looked at a lot of their Naviances. So you could have your students fill out those. It does career planning. As I say, there's the inventories that I just started talking about, resume building, college planning. You can do searches. You can look at colleges from location around the United States by major, by what they have for their students to get involved in. And then students can set up personalized goals and tasks. They can use it as a planner. They can enter journal things about what they've enjoyed in high school. There's all kinds of resources. This is what the homepage looks like. This is the self-discovery button I talked to you about, where you can find the Strength Explorer survey. There's colleges you're thinking about. Students can enter as many of those colleges in, but they should not start touching colleges I'm applying to until they're early in their senior year or late in their junior year. And then the careers and career clusters down here is another good thing for them to look at. And then how do you get access to Naviance? This is the Naviance sign-in. Your student should have a user and password through the single sign-on. But if you send me your email, I will send you your login information as a parent. Please include your student's name, and then you'll receive the email within the next day or two. If you don't receive an email from me, please email me again, and I will make sure it gets to you. All right? Any questions, please make sure you send an email to me and I will coach you through it. Who was doing wellness?
Hi, next we're going to go over Branham Wellness. So we're going to go over some resources that we have available and our wellness center. Go ahead, next slide, Vince. So this is the website, which there will be a QR code later in the presentation that you can scan and go directly on your phone. So this is just an overview of what our website looks like. On this site, we have who our counselors are. We have some social workers information on there. Our information is on there as well. But we have, if you see on the left-hand side, we have different things like anxiety and stress management, coping strategies and self-care, depression, eating disorders, grief, loss, substance abuse prevention, suicide prevention, and more. So we have a lot of resources on here for the students and their families. And if you go, you can see the link at the bottom. So you can scroll to that link and that'll take you directly there. So this is just a little bit more about what I was talking about. So our mental health resources, we went over that. We have a lot of resources available for our students and support that we can provide them. We also have counseling services. So we have Cassie and Uplift available in our wellness center. So these are counselors that are able to support our students when, you know, they need a break from class. We have a great wellness center with a full staff that can kind of help them navigate their feelings and what they're going through. And then we also have our community resources. So we do have referrals to outside agencies like Uplift. We have school-wide outreach presentations, and we also have a food pantry. We really want our students to be able to access the food that they need to be prepared for school and to be able to concentrate and not have that on their plate. At the bottom, we have, again, screenshots of what those websites look like and how you can get there. So the bottom left, if you go to our school website, if you click on student supports and resources and you scroll down to Wellness Center, that'll take you to a lot of our content for what we have there. And then it'll take you to the next picture, which is just the title of and the header of our Wellness Center page. And there's more information as well. So these are our QR codes. You are more than welcome to look at them right now with your phones or revisit this presentation later when it gets posted on our website. And we have one that takes you to the wellness site and then one that takes you to our counseling website. Just to reiterate before we wrap up the evening, we will be going into your students' classes. So for our freshmen, we will be going in October, and then we will also be going in for our sophomores and just going over what we went over with you this evening. And we'll go a little bit more. We'll answer, students' questions. So if they're asking you questions, definitely have them stop by, or we will go over those during our presentations in the next couple months. And we'll be meeting with our freshman classes next week. So again, here's our contact information if you're trying to get a hold of us. So here's our emails. You can also call us, whichever you prefer, and we can support you with whatever questions you have. Again, we want to thank everyone for showing up tonight and asking your questions. We'll stay on for a few more minutes. I'll stop the recording. So if you have any other last minute questions you had that didn't get answered in the presentation, please go ahead and feel free to use the question and answer box. Thank you.